For Valentine's Day, Phoebe got me an extremely romantic gift. She knows me well. I unwrapped the package to find what looked like a Casio, but wasn't. This was the name on the dial, Skmei, or Skmei, or Skmei, or something. Not a clue how to pronounce this properly, but I was excited nonetheless, because loads of you have bombarded me with questions about this brand before, and this is extra interesting because it looks just like a watch that I already own, the Casio A158. At a glance, you may think these are the same watch, and I wouldn't blame you because this Skmei is a copy with a couple of small differences. It's cheaper, but is it better? This is currently going for about £8 compared to the 15 to 20 for the Casio. Is it worth going for the low cost option? Keep watching. Design-wise, these both have the same square shape with the LCD in the center. Both are 33mm in diameter, which becomes about 34 if you include those lumps around the pushers. The Skmei is a fraction wider, but more importantly is notably deeper. Both cases feature a rear bulge housing the quartz movement. The bulge on that knockoff is more pronounced, and it means you're left with more of a gap between the lugs and your arm. As a whole, it works out about a millimeter deeper, which may not sound much, but the Casio sits flushest to the wrist, which I prefer the look and feel of. While the colours on each face are quite similar, both including red, yellow and blue, it's clear the Skmei is brighter, or should I say more reflective, that's probably more accurate. The A158 looks a little bit more understated and is slightly less reflective. Both have similar wording, though in different positions. I have to say I'm not a fan of the Skmei font. I think it looks pretty bizarre and rather ugly, almost like the font is inflatable, and I don't think it fits a watch like this. It looks like it belongs on a kid's watch. On camera, the displays might look similar on both, but in person, they do perform quite differently. From an overhead view, I'd say the clarity is about equal. On that Chinese brand one, there is more contrast between the digits and background, though there does seem to be more of a shadow when moved even a fraction to either side. The viewing angles are far better on the Casio, which remains clear from virtually any perspective instead. With the Skmei, you often get that weird effect where sections of the panel become visible. I'm unsure of the technical terminology for this, but essentially it's inferior in this regard. One area that the Skmei does dominate the Casio is the night light. The venerable A158 has the terrible side light carried over from the F91W, which technically works, albeit performs a bit poorly. Sometimes you can only see that left-hand side of the display. This wannabe Casio features an unusual light that inverts the display for a few seconds when pressed. It makes it brighter, and overall it's a much better system. If you're looking closely, there's another thing that you might have noticed. The pushers on the Skmei are slightly larger, but both feel quite similar. There's also an audible difference in the pitch between the two when pressed. The Casio is a bit lower. The other one is a bit higher. Overall though, neither particularly bother me. In terms of basic functionality, both watches seem to work well enough. According to AliExpress, the knockoff has a case constructed of zinc alloy rather than the resin used in the A158, which is quite unusual. I would have thought they would have just done a resin case too. Both aren't great materials. I'm unsure which would survive better over time, to be honest. Feel free to let me know down below. To be fair, the Skmei does have a little bit more weight to it, though overall, it's clear to see straight away that Casio has done a better job with the case finishing, which is neater overall. The lines around the lugs and flanks of the watch just look more refined and sharper, versus the knockoff, which, well, it looks like a knockoff. Some areas look scrappy and rushed. I especially noticed a bit around the lug area, just where the strap attaches. That underside is very uneven, and for the price point, it's understandable. Regardless of looks, both watches should perform similarly when it comes to water. Both having a claimed 30 meters of water resistance, which should be enough for general day-to-day tasks, but nothing like swimming. Nevertheless, these Casios have a bit of a legendary reputation for water resistance. There are many tales out there of people going full diving in these, that they actually perform a lot better than 30 meters, and that Casio have almost underpitched this feature. Now obviously, the knockoff doesn't have that sort of reputation with it. Both watches feature the same screw-secured stainless steel rear, so I'd imagine the Skmei would still be okay. Another thing they have in common is the acrylic crystal on the top. aka piece of plastic. AliExpress lists this as simply glass, though both seem to be the same stuff. This will provide virtually no resistance when it comes to scratches, but they can be quite good against impacts. The Chinese brand has also copy and pasted the bracelet from the A158. Both look and feel very similar, but again, the Casio's is better for a couple of reasons. In this case, it's the clasp that's the big difference maker. The Casio's clasp functions just how it should. It keeps the watch secure when sealed, but is easily adjusted when required. While the quality of the Skmei bracelet is fine, its clasp is difficult to set and then reopen without ripping your fingernail off. Either way though, if you wanted to switch these out, both are totally removable, you'll just need a tool. And if you're wondering, both are constructed of stainless steel. If I was choosing between them and only could buy one of them, I would definitely save up that extra few quid and get the Casio. While the Skmei is surprisingly quite a good watch, especially considering the price, it just feels like a subpar version of the watch it's trying to be. Not to mention, the name is very unusual and hard to pronounce, quite frankly. It may advertise as original authentic on AliExpress, but the original mega value watch is the Casio. It's from a better brand, it looks better, it's easier to read from most angles, it's more comfortable, and it's proven to be virtually indestructible. This is probably the best watch for the price point as a whole, so I'd definitely go with that one. In fact, I reviewed it on maybe the first or one of the very first videos on this channel, which I'll link to up in the icon above so you can watch it next. I'll also link both watches in the video description if you want to check them out. I'll see you in the next one.